How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling, and we're going to have a hell of a show tonight because we've got Terry Funk, one of the all-time greats. We had Harley Race last week. Terry Funk this week, who's probably, I think Terry Funk has done more different things in more different places than just about any man alive. Probably more experience at this industry than just about anyone because Terry Funk is 60 years old. And he's been around the business since we'll have to ask him what his oldest memory of wrestling is because he grew up, of course, his father was a wrestling promoter in Amarillo, Texas, and wrestled out of Hammond, Indiana before that, and wrestled since 65. So going on his 40th year in the ring, which is close to an all-time record, not quite, and winding down his career, which...
the all-time record for retirements.
Holds the all-time record for retirements, probably, yeah. I would say that, among other things. And, but anyway, just been everywhere, done everything. We can talk about almost any era of wrestling. You can join us at 1-800-878-PLAY. And we will also, if you're interested, we got the hottest thing on the market for Christmas, the ECW DVDs, the Rise and Fall of ECW. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these to give away.
Wow.
We're gonna probably give away a couple tonight, and maybe a couple in a couple of weeks. But anyway, first person, if you call up and answer this question, first person who calls in, and gets on the air with this question, will get one DVD, and we've got a couple more questions later, which have to do with Terry Funk. But the first question is, name 2 Olympic gold medalists that Antonio Inoki had famous matches with. So that's question number 1. We got plenty more to come from after that, but, a lot of stores didn't carry this thing because of the low stock, but we got plenty of them. Brian, have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, you need to get one.
I don't have one yet.
Oh, you need to get one. But I don't have your book yet. And that was a Merry Christmas for you.
Yes, it was.
Watching the Amazon rankings.
Yeah.
Yeah, your book did really well, and other books didn't. I know I have not read Hunter's book, but I did read, I read the Bill Watts book this weekend. And I read the Edge book this weekend, and Bill Watts' book, which won't come out until probably next summer, was really good. And the Edge book was okay. Nothing. If you like Edge, you should get the book. Not the best book or anything like that around there. Brian, I guess New Year's Eve's coming up on Friday, and it's biggest night of the year when it comes to Japanese shoot fighting. So I guess we'll do a couple of predictions on some of the matches. Okay, Bob Sapp, Jerome LeBanner in a strange match in the sense of the first round will be kickboxing rules, second round mixed martial arts rules, third round kickboxing rules, and if there is a fourth round, which there will not be, they would go back to mixed martial arts rules.
Well, I think Bob's at a big disadvantage because starting out as a kickboxing match. If it started out as an MMA fight, he'd obviously have a better chance, but it's not. And I think he's been there for, a month training?
Yeah.
God knows what he's been doing prior to that. So
he's been working on a movie, and we know what happens when guys work on a movie and come to fight.
They do. They usually look good for Mr. Sapp.
Yeah, they usually lose. I would have to agree. I think that Jerome LeBanner is going to win that one. Switching over to the Pride, or the number 1 spot in the world in the heavyweight division. What's your thoughts?
I think Nogueira is going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Fedor.
Yep, I figured. I think a lot of people are going to go with Fedor.
Yeah, it's actually, the odds are pretty close on this one. Closer than I expected.
I think that Nogueira has something that he's trying to prove to himself. And I thought he was doing very well in that last fight until the cut happened. And I think he's going to do very well in this fight and beat him. Okay.
Let's see, the Royce Gracie Akibono.
Oh, God, Royce Gracie.
Royce Gracie, yeah. Got to agree. Then moving on, what's the number 2 match? Mirko Cro Cop and Kevin Randleman.
That is an interesting one. I'm going to go with Cro Cop.
I'm going with Cro Cop, but I think the odds are way too long on that fight.
They're way, 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 way too long. But at the same time, it's like the running joke on the show that Kevin Randleman will find a way to lose. And I was shocked that he found a way to win last time.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to find a way this time.
Yeah.
He gave away his entire strategy after he beat him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, he's going to have a new strategy.
Well, good luck to him.
Yeah, Kareem Gabar Ibrahim against Kazuki Fujita.
That's, well, I'll put it this way. If any of the Olympic medalists are going to win, it's going to be him. It's not going to be Gardner.
Okay, well, that's next one we're going to bring up, so.
But this is going to be, I actually don't think there will be I think it'll be is there going to be draws or anything like that, or how are they going to do a decision?
I mean, it would be, let's see, this is on a K1, so it'd be 3 5-minute rounds, and, judging at the end of the 3 rounds. If they go three rounds, Ibrahim's going to beat him, I think, unless he gasses. He's going to throw him around early. There's no question. I mean, much better wrestlers than Fujita got thrown around in the Olympics by this guy like it was nothing.
I'm just thinking that neither of them will be able to finish the other.
I don't know what he can do to finish Fujita. I do know Fujita might be able to finish him because Fujita's just got a lot more experience in this game.
Yeah.
And also, you're talking about a guy used to 6-minute matches that are Greco-Roman wrestling as opposed to a guy used to mixed martial arts, a different sport. I'm going to go with Fujita, but just on the experience.
Yeah.
Gardner, Yoshida, you're going with Yoshida.
Yeah. I don't think, Gardner's going to take him down. He's not going to want to hit him. He's not going to want to get hit. I know Randy Couture that he said that Gardner had a better than even chance of winning or something of that nature. He said that Gardner punches real hard. Yeah. But, I don't know. If Couture says that, you got to, it means something. But he didn't say he had an overwhelming chance. He said he had a better than even chance. So, I don't think that's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, I've got to go with Yoshida just out of, just based on experience. I'm trying to think if there's any other, big matches. I guess those are the main ones. I am glad that Sakuraba has been saved. Yeah. I don't know so I wonder who's going to be the next victim. I'll be surprised if they can find a victim. They're going to have to. The guy's there. Let's go Yuki Kondo, Dan Henderson. Dan Henderson. Okay, I agree on that one too. Dan Henderson. Okay, we're going to go, let's see. Well, we'll go first to Chris in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
Hey, I wanted to try the trivia question if I could.
Okay, go ahead.
And the question was who 2 gold medal winners that Inoki has wrestled, right?
Yes.
Is one of them Willem Ruska?
He was a gold medal winner. That's one, yeah.
And Shota Svili?
You got it. That's it.
Cool. I don't have that DVD. Sweet.
Oh, good job. Okay, so now talk to Ira, our producer, and they'll get you this DVD. We got one down. Okay. Good job. Any other questions?
I just wanted to comment a little bit on the Pride thing and then just on my wrestling watching habits lately. Along with you, Brian, I'm thankful that Sakuraba is not being thrown to the wolves yet again. Yeah. When I saw that, when you reported 2-3 weeks back that it was going to be their 4th fight, I was like, oh my God, I mean, Sakuraba can barely get around as it is. So his broken ribs are probably for the best. It's really good he broke his ribs because the back sprain pretty much sealed any chance of him winning, if there was a chance, and for him to come back out of that. And the thing is, he still wanted to go, but they had to save him and just say, hey, because I don't know, he probably, given how his body gave out in this training, I don't know that he's got any fights left. And you're talking about a monster in his prime. Not a good fight. And really, when you think about how badly they wanted this fight, and how they've allowed him to do other fights in bad shape, he must have been in real bad shape. You know what I mean? Well, broken ribs. Yeah. We already know the knees are shot, but yeah, so. Yeah, he's never going to say no, and he would have gotten stomped into oblivion most likely. We all love Sakuraba, but there's only so much a guy can do.
Yeah. I agree with you. He probably would have taken a bad beating, and it's the thing, to beat for him to beat Silva, but it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Hey, switching gears just for a second. I've been a long-time fan. I've been watching since I was about 9, 10 years old. I'm 30 years old now. The whole family thing catches up with you. I've got 2 kids now, and obviously that puts a little crimp in the time for, whether it's games or watching wrestling, whatever. But I still tape the shows, and I may pop in once in a while. I watch the Angle, and that caught my attention, the Angle and Pewter thing. Mm-hmm. And I ordered the Turning Point pay-per-view because everybody raved about the main event, so I'm going to watch that. I'm sure that'll be great.
That's a great show.
I can't imagine that if things, and I'm thankful that we don't have 12 hours a week. I used to watch so much stuff back in the late 90s like we all did, but I can't imagine if it was anywhere near as compelling as it was back then. No matter what my other time commitments, I still could see myself watching tons of wrestling, but it just, this time in my life coincided with everything just going down the tubes, and it's just not a good combination.
Well, you're the epitome of what the problem is, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
I mean, everyone's got, it's the family commitments and everything are there, but also that if they were putting on shows that you really liked, you'd find a way at least to watch the pay-per-views.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't miss it. I still have them live here.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know, like, with my friends and everything like that, the monthly pay-per-view thing is not a big deal anymore. In fact, it's very rare when it's any kind of a deal, maybe WrestleMania or something. SummerSlam, but aside from that, it's,
For me, it's hard to get people to chip in these days and pay, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
$4.95, Brian's going it alone, yeah.
Yeah, they're like $5, I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, most of the shows are worth $5. I'm watching them for 30.
So, but I tell my friends that.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's too many of them, that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's not a special social occasion if you're going to do it every Sunday.
Yeah.
So that's
nights where I realize 10 o'clock, I'm like, oh shoot, there's a pay-per-view, I better check Dave's site and at least get the results. So I'm still interested to that extent, but not interested enough to pay top down $35.
Well, the other thing also is that on a lot of these recent shows is that, even in like 2000, 2001 and stuff, when even 2002, you would go to watch the WWE shows and like the main event or the top two matches, you were really going to get, a great match. And now, this year, we're really not getting that on a regular basis. We had a few, don't get me wrong, especially when Benoit was on top with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, but it's not a consistent thing like, okay, we know we're getting a WWE pay-per-view and we're going to get a 4-star main event because, ever since with JBL as champion, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we got spoiled because we'd have 3.5, 3/4, 4+ star matches, and it was kind of, we took some of those for granted because I got sick of the same 5 guys on top, for a whole 2-year period. But still, the top matches delivered almost every time. So, yeah, those were the days.
All right.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, very good, Chris. We're going to head to a break.
DVD. Are we going to have another question?
Yeah, let me get another question.
I think we should do this like a game show where if we have a question and nobody throughout the course of the show answers it, then I get the DVD.
Okay. The next question is a Terry Funk question. Is that, oh my God, Big Dave's coming.
Hey!
But anyway, the next question is that, Terry Funk had a very famous match. It was the finals of the first ever World Tag League in Japan, and a lot of people will know this because, it's one of the legendary matches in Japanese history. So who did Terry and Dory Funk face in that, championship match in the very first year? So anyway, you answer that one, you get an ECW DVD. And we're going to go to David in Long Island. David, what's going on?
I got the answer to the trivia question.
Okay.
Funk's match was against Abdullah and Sheik.
Well, I knew that one was going to come. You got that. All right.
And also, Inoki had a match with a third gold medalist.
Yes, he did.
Ali.
That's right.
Well, I just wanted to once again compliment Brian on the book.
Oh, thank you.
Finished reading it. So I figure since you haven't emailed me back yet, I'd ask Dave. In the book,
I did email you.
What?
I did email you.
Oh, no, about the Sid thing. Well, I figure I'll just double check with Dave. That in the book it says that the Harlem Heat slave gimmick was a Bill Watts idea.
Yeah, well, it came after Bill Watts, I think, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. I think
it was after Watts.
I think they came in '93.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because it says it was a Watts idea in the book.
Oh, okay.
Oh, boy.
Well,
we'll have a second edition coming out.
Otherwise, great job. Still can't believe that Nails was under contract in 2000.
Yeah, no kidding. There was some crazy stuff there when it comes to like, but you know what? In the whole period of that company, there were so many incidences of guys that their contracts rolled over that were never used. Like, even under Jim Herd, like the Iron Sheik, where.
Yeah, but this was for 7 years.
Yeah.
It was crazy. There was this huge list of everybody who was under contract at that time, and I remember just going down this list and going, first off, there were some people I was going, who is this person? And then there were others like Nails where you just go, why is this man being paid?
Yeah, I know. I mean, he was terrible in WWE. That's one thing when it comes to Nails and everything, just as an example. It's like in professional wrestling, sometimes I don't think that you could ever be bad enough to not have work. If you ever do something bad enough, because what that guy did with Vince McMahon, if you ever know the story, where he choked him out and then he claimed that Vince had sexually assaulted him. It's like, to me, it's like, like Vince McMahon or not, the fact is that somebody who would do that is not exactly, and plus he was a terrible wrestler. And plus, he had his background. Okay, so it's like, all those things combined, I mean, that would be a guy that, like, I really wouldn't want to hire. But, Eric hired him and never used him and paid him tons of money.
Yeah.
What a job some of those people had. Just sit around and collect a paycheck every 2 weeks and never have to go to work. Or the ones who went to work that phoned it in for years and years and killed the company.
I think some of the guys that never had to go to work were the luckiest of all.
Yeah, it's really sad that, in a business that all these people grew up wanting to be in, and in a business that's really can be a lot of fun for the participants, just how miserable they really made everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I never heard of any other company where people were, just so miserable and yet making so much money. And I think there's a real lesson there is that, people like complain about money and everything when it comes to wrestling, but I don't think, like ECW and everything, everyone talked about how happy they were even though they never got paid.
Yeah.
And WCW, they were getting paid, more money than they'll ever make in the rest of their lives, and they were miserable the whole time. And then they were miserable when they lost their job because they, built up that kind of, that lifestyle that there was no way they were going to make that money again.
Yeah.
So, anything else, David?
Yeah, I figured just since you have Terry Funk on, I tell this story I have just to show how cool Terry Funk is.
Oh, I know this story and it's great.
Oh, you do?
It's too bad he's not here to hear it, actually.
Yeah, I know. Maybe you could relay it later, but, okay, you do know the one I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, I guess Brian saw it when I posted it on message board.
Oh, okay.
At one of the ArieSBG conventions in '93, I met Terry Funk, and I was like, okay, wait, that's '93, so I would have been 9 years old at the time. And,
I think I do know the story now. But no, go ahead.
And, I'm being all talkative, and he jokes around and writes on the autograph, he writes, "Stay out of jail." So fast forward to...
I do know the story, but
2 years ago. I'm at a Jersey All-Pro show, and he's walking out, before the show to go to his autograph table. He's shaking hands with everyone against the wall. He stops, he looks at me and says, "So did you stay out of jail?"
Isn't that an amazing story?
Especially considering how many times he's been hit in the head.
Yeah, I know. He's a classic person. That's all I can say.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so you'll put me on hold so I can talk to Ira.
Okay, good enough. Ira? Okay, we got to get a new question here. Okay, it's another one that's actually pretty easy. In 1983, Terry Funk retired, which we'll talk about. Anyway, he had a very famous match that year. It was the Funk brothers against two guys. Who were the two guys in Terry Funk's famous All Japan retirement match? And in fact, he didn't come back to All Japan for about a year and a half after that match. So anyway, that's the next trivia question. You can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. We're also going to have Terry Funk up in just a couple of minutes. Let me just see what other stuff's going on. Brian, any thoughts as far as the Mick Foley, Ric Flair situation?
I think we talked about this last week. I'm just sad that, they didn't turn what really happened into an angle.
Well, if it's up to Vince McMahon, they would.
Yeah. And it would be a perfect angle, exactly the way that went down. That was the best part of the whole thing. And it's just one of those things where something was dropped in their lap, which is another reason why I think that nothing will become of this. And I'm sure... The one thing is it's Mick Foley and Ric Flair, so I don't know how they could possibly have a bad build to a match, you know what I mean?
Well, they certainly couldn't have a bad set of interviews building them.
Unless you don't let them speak. Have someone else speak for them.
Yeah.
But, it would be a lot of fun. And their feud it's such a petty, lame feud that I think that they can put it behind them. You know what I mean?
In a sense, it would be nice if they would. But I mean, I know where Foley's coming from.
Well, this is not like the Flair-Brett thing, where Flair and Brett are both, they're deluded to the point where they can't admit that the other person was even good. Whereas with Flair and Foley, Foley's going to say things like, "You're old, you do the same moves in every match," and Flair's going to say, "Oh, you did crazy stuff," and blah, blah, blah. And it's true, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're taking it to an extreme. But, in general, it's something that, you can argue semantics if they're both right or whatever. But, it's a different situation, and I think that they could get over this quite easily and, do something. But it's up to them.
Brian, when you finished the book, what were your thoughts when it was all said and done? As far as what WCW meant to the industry, what the loss of WCW meant to the industry, aside from the fact that you had a lot of comedy to write and it was some of the nuttiest stuff ever produced in wrestling, what are your thoughts? Because, it's like whenever we think back about WCW, to me, again, growing up on that style of wrestling and that TBS, the loss of TBS wrestling was a real sad thing to me because, that's like my childhood rushing home at 3:05 on Saturdays and Sundays when I, could have gone to the beach because, we didn't have VCRs. Which is actually true. But I couldn't miss the first minute of that show because, that was like, for its period, that was so much better than like the wrestling we had in California. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah. Well, when we first started writing it, I was all excited because I thought, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun because there was so much funny stuff, and I thought back to everything on Thunder and Nitro and all the comedy, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. And when I started writing it, it became very depressing very, very fast. And by the time that I was done writing it, I kind of had these mixed feelings where, like, I was really sad that it was gone because I knew that wrestling was never going to be the same again. But at the same time, part of me felt that whatever incarnation it was deserved to die.
They deserve to die.
Yeah.
There's no question what they did to the business. They deserve to they deserve to die. That was a crime against the business and humanity in certain places too.
And then when we were writing the epilogue and stuff like that, and I was writing about, the death of the invasion and everything like that, then I switched back and forth from thinking, God, Vince is just as stupid as they were.
But he's not.
Then I also jumped back and I looked over the book again and I was like, no, he's not.
No, he's not. He's not
even close.
Yeah.
But they're making the same mistakes and everything like that, but nothing can compare to, the last few years of WCW. And I don't think anything ever could possibly compare.
I've seen moments.
As a whole, I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, there's some just ungodly, horrible television in WCW during 1999, for months at a time. That's true. And our guests today, they are here right now. Scott Williams, are you here?
I am here.
Scott Williams, who, of course, is the co-author of the book that will be coming out with Terry Funk, one of the all-time legends. Terry, how are you today?
I'm doing just fine. How could Jimmy Hart leave me out of that?
I know, when he mentioned the honky-tonk man. I was thinking that when I was listening to it. It's one thing when he puts Hulk Hogan's name in there, but the honky-tonk man.
Yes, and Neidhart and everybody else with no funk. What happened to funk? That's right.
How was Christmas, Terry?
What's that?
How's Christmas?
Christmas is wonderful. Christmas is just fine. It really is,
Yeah.
You make another one at my age, it's great. Pretty good deal.
How you feel overall? You've been toning down. You haven't wrestled a lot. Have you wrestled since going to Europe?
Well, no, I haven't wrestled since going to Europe. And I've got that one at the Wrestle Reunion coming up.
Yeah, January 29th in Tampa.
The next one I've got, Dave, and I'm after that one. I know you've heard this, and I don't even want to say it.
Okay.
I'm not even saying it.
There's a chance that might be his last match. I'll say it.
Oh, absolutely. That one might be my last match.
And no one listening believes it, but we'll see.
No.
Terry, when I think back, and I was, of course, looking forward to this book before it was ever written, and I haven't read the finished version, but I read, whatever it was, 75% of the book a month or two ago. And it's awesome. I just want everyone to know that. I mentioned this a couple times already on the show. You have probably got more different experiences in this business than just about anyone. I mean, just between touring all those territories as the top star and as world champion, being in WWF when the thing took off, Japan when that thing took off, and all over the world for 40 years as a wrestler, and then before that for a couple of decades growing up around the business. Here we are, and it's 2005 in just a couple of days, and the business itself that you started with. Really quick, what's your oldest wrestling memory? Do you have one?
Yeah, I do. I have several old memories. In fact, I've got many of them. I can mention the old memory of Vern Gagne being out in the garage with Bob Geigel and my father and having them shoot in the garage, at the barn, and that was out in Umberger, Texas. I was about 6 years old and watching them, and that's what they would do. And then just memories from Boys Ranch whenever my father would go off in a day and come back late at night, and really didn't realize what he was doing. But on a Thursday night, we would go up to matches and watch him at that age, and watch him in the ring. And was scared to death for him, and bawled like a baby for him, and pained right with him all the way through the entire match whenever I was a young kid, And then there was a time whenever I was brought into the business, and brought into the business, and at the time that I was, it was a strange period in this world. And what it was is I was taught and told that you're supposed to protect your business, and protection of the business was quite violent at that time. And I'm not so sure that everyone that I beat up in the process of time or whenever it was, I'm not so sure it was right, but I'm not so sure it was wrong. But one thing it did do is create me a tremendous amount of respect for my father and for the business itself,
What was it like, and a lot of people, aren't even really, they've heard of your father, but they don't really know, like, your father's legacy in Amarillo. He was the guy like Ric Flair in Charlotte or Jerry Lawler in Memphis, but it was a different era. And when you talk about protecting the business and stuff, your father got in some violent fights to prove that wrestling was real, probably all through your childhood. Is that pretty much the truth?
It's pretty much true, and I fought my way through grade school and high school, too. At the same time he was fighting, but he did. He fought for the business, and actually at the time that he was in the business, was at the time of McLemore and them down in Houston and Siegel, and they was having their wars between Dallas, and they actually hired my father and Ricky Starr and Ray Gunkel to be the shooters for the Houston end of that fight and war, which wound up in them burning down a couple of arenas.
Yeah. It's just an amazing thing, and then to see where the business has come down to, for the big picture, one huge company, the likes of which, 30 years ago you could have never envisioned, but nothing else, and, 60 jobs or whatever it is, as far as, maybe, a few more with developmental, and there are some with TNA, but, far less jobs, but a very lucrative business for some people, the likes of which, was really, unavailable to most professional wrestlers back in the day. And then also, you were there through the upside of Japan, and now, Japan, the Japanese business is struggling and it's funny because it's two different things. You've got the American business struggling because you got one company, and I think a lot of the reason the Japanese business is struggling is because there's, whatever it is, 40 companies.
Yeah, how do you define what wrestling is?
Yeah.
And it becomes so many variations and so many products, and it becomes watered down that way, and then you get one product and you get too much of it. So what is the exact recipe? I'm not sure that anybody knows, Dave.
Do you have any thoughts as far as, future of professional wrestling goes?
I really do, and I think that we're coming full circle, and I think it's circling, and it is going to go to more wrestling, which you're seeing it. The pendulum swung from wrestling to what is truly great acrobatics at this time. And we've got some truly, I wouldn't say great acrobatics, but great athletes performing acrobatic moves in the ring. And what it used to be is we were a little bit better at the wrestling end, but we weren't the athletes that they have in the ring today. And I truly believe that, and I think the guys that are in there today are great, but I think that they've got to somebody's got to teach them to feel what the public wants.
As far as feeling what the public wants, you've been around and you've seen pretty much everyone, everywhere, as much as just about anybody. In your mind, who stands out as the best people you were ever in the ring with or ever watched as far as, different, any different aspect, however you want to define a great professional wrestler?
I want to find a great professional wrestler with a great professional wrestling mind. Eddie Graham, number one. Mm-hmm. Tremendous mind on him. Wrestling mind, great mind, Sam Musnick. Wrestling mind, great mind, Paul Bosch. wrestlers themselves, gosh, you can go on down forever with a list on the great ones. You know, that's why I always say when people say single one or two out, you can say what you want to, but Jack Briscoe and Jerry Briscoe were just about the epitome of baby faces. And baby face that would go into the ring and trust the guy that was the general in there and have a great match with them and just were great and real crowd pleasers. There were great heels along through the years, you know, from the Sheik that would scare you to death in the ring, you know, to Johnny Valentine that would wrestle all night long, to Pat O'Connor whenever he was healing was a great heel and just small little intricate things that he would do in the ring. Everybody had their own style. And I think that's maybe what I'm trying to say, Dave, is everyone had their own style and their own feeling about wrestling, and they were able to portray what they felt and what they felt that their character was. And I think that we are without that at this time.
Yeah, what do you think it is that has kind of made everything, you know, you've got guys with the same, you know, same haircuts and all the guys doing the same moves in the same style match. And, I think that the guys are creative, but it's almost like the creativity is discouraged, I think, in a lot of ways.
Well, the creativity came from, it didn't come from the guys themselves. It did not come from the guys themselves. The creativity is coming from the office end. The creativity is coming from the people that create the talent for Vince. You know, so-called what are they called anymore? They're not called bookers.
Oh, the writing team.
The writers. The writers. What the hell is a writer? You know, but give you an example of creativity is, and I'm really proud of this, is I went in there with Jerry Lawler. Went to Memphis, Tennessee, 6 months ago. Went in there and did 4,900 people. And how I did it was by being creative and making them interested in something that wasn't even there, but I created something that was 27 years ago and rehashed it and brought it out and brought it forward. And it actually drew a few people out there, a few more than at the average, at the average arena crowd now.
Now, your thing, and a lot of people didn't see it, and I actually haven't seen it, but I've heard about it, is, you did old Terry Funk interviews, from the ranch and everything, and sent the tapes in and got people interested in wanting to see you wrestle. And yet, that's, it seems so simple, yet nothing like that is done in wrestling anywhere. I mean, even TNA could have done something like that, and they really didn't do it.
Well, they had the opportunity to.
Yeah.
I went down there with the same thing to them, a few weeks, several weeks earlier. And they weren't so interested in that.
Yeah.
But
neither here nor there,
in the book, too, is that you have the writing team scripting out every single word these guys say, and then they end up rewarding the ones who can remember their lines and punishing guys who might be very creative guys on their own power for being poor memorizers.
Well, that's exactly right. Wrestling isn't acting, acting isn't wrestling. That's for certain. If you take an actor that's a good actor, you can't put him in the wrestling business and he'd be a good wrestler, or vice versa. But it's a different type of business for both of them. And for us, it's a different kind of business than doing lines. You can get a guy that can create and walk out there like Curtis Iakea, and he could do reams of promos, one after the other, wind up on the second. Don't ask me how in the hell he could do it. You could get the great promo guys through the years, that would just wind up on time cue and do 3, 5, do a 30-second. Bam, they do a 30-second. Not ever two of them alike. But that guy could not, and I'll guarantee you, Curtis Iakea could not do it from a script. Mm. But he did it from his heart. And that's what it has to be. And I'm afraid that Vince is missing some wonderful pieces of talent that could have allowed to develop their own ideas, their own ways, and come through the business. It might be much more successful for them than the way it is now. It may not be more successful for Vince, but it certainly would be possibly more successful and more enjoyable to the individual entertainer.
Scott, real quick, tell everyone the details as far as when the book will be out, and I guess that's the main thing. When's the book coming out?
The book's supposed to be out in March from Sports Publishing.
Okay, good, because I mentioned this before on the show. That book, and the Bill Watts book as well, which I just read this week, are two books that I would highly recommend for 2005. They're up there with like the Mick Foley book and the ones that, you've got your good books and you've got your must-reads, and they're the must-reads, I think. And Scott, you did a hell of a job on those things.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Terry, I guess, before we go anywhere, I want to ask you about Dick Murdoch, because, I know that you talk about Dick Murdoch in the Hall of Fame in the book, and you probably know Dick Murdoch about as well as anyone. You actually grew up with him. You were just a couple of years older than him in Amarillo, and you've known him since childhood, and then you crossed paths in your wrestling career forever and ever, and good friend of yours. Why don't you tell us, everybody, a little bit about Dick Murdoch?
Well, Dick he was quite an unusual guy. In fact, I've known him for years and years, since he was a young boy. He lived right there in Amarillo, Texas. He was an adopted child of Frankie Hill Murdoch. So in a roundabout way, he was a second-generation wrestler. But I saw Dick coming through the years, followed him through the years. And I can remember when he was just a snotty-nosed kid, and he'd come to the arena, and his dad would tell him and his brother, hey, kid, go get me a hot dog and a Coke. And the kid would go up there, Dick would, and he'd bring back the hot dog and the Coke, and the old man wouldn't give Dick any of the hot dog nor any of the Coke. And it really was a pretty sad situation, and used to hang around the back of the bleachers popping cups with him. We'd just take a Coke cup, turn it upside down, and slam our heel down on it. It would pop like a shotgun while we were waiting for our fathers to get paid,
Mm-hmm.
But I've known Dick through the years, and Dick was, he's quite a character, I guess it, a lot of guys that hung around with Dick, Dick was always looking for somebody to hang around with him. And whoever he had in the truck with him, was, in his truck going to a town or wherever it was, or his choice of the week, his buddy of the week would be riding along with him, and Dick say, now, you and I are the only two smart guys around, isn't that right? That's the way you and I think, isn't that right? He continually did that. But then, unfortunately for that guy, the next guy that got in the car with him is the same way. That was Dick, is always full of it, but just a great guy.
Dick was one of these guys who I don't think he really ever lifted weights. I don't know that he ever really trained yet.
Never trained, but he trained. He trained, but he'd wrestle 45 minutes every night.
Yeah, I mean,
he'd wrestle hard as hell.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember I don't remember.
He didn't like you, then he'd have a hilarious clown match with you and ruin you for 6 months in a town.
But I mean, that's the thing with him is when Dick Murdoch was serious, I mean, his talent was up there with anyone that the business has ever had, and then he was an entertainer, and sometimes he was out there entertaining himself.
That's a great statement. That's who he loved to entertain, was himself and the guys in the ring. That was Murdoch's deal, is to entertain them, And dadgummit, is the son of a gun. He died without any money. That's the sad thing about it, Dave. That happens to a lot of guys that we don't even realize.
Yeah.
That happens to in this business. Is Wahoo, wrestled all of his life. You'd think he'd have a fortune. Well, he didn't have a fortune. And Murdoch, wrestled all of his life, and you'd think he'd have a fortune, but he didn't have a fortune. In fact, Dick, he didn't have enough to even bury himself, and one of his ex-wives, Janet, went ahead and paid for the burial for him, and that was a pretty good thing to do. But Dick was loved by everybody in the Panhandle of Texas, and he was a great individual and a great performer, not only there, but he was a star in St. Louis. He was a star in Houston. He was a star in Florida. He was a star in Georgia. He went up there to Minneapolis in the early years. He and Dusty did, and he was a star in Japan, and Dick pretty much went all over, and the thing that kind of grabs me is that there's so many guys, though, and this is the truth too. There's a lot of guys that should be into the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
They should be. They really should be, and they're not going to get in there, and that's the tough part. And and I hope that Dick gets in there. I really do.
Well, we should.
I was in there from the start, Dave. You know that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. I may not belong there, but by God, I wouldn't go ahead and back down and let somebody else in that place. because it's it's a wonderful honor.
I want to first get to Ed in San Antonio, who has been waiting since the start of the show to talk to Terry Funk. Ed, what's going on?
Hey guys, I gotta say, Mr. Funk, it's really a great honor to speak with you.
Well, thank you very much.
I can't even believe I have the opportunity to. The question that I have for you is, I'm not overly familiar with your father's territory, and what I was curious is, what was the relationship between your father and Fritz von Erich in Dallas, Joe Blanchard in San Antonio, and I'm sorry, but I can't think of who ran Houston.
Paul Bosch.
Paul Bosch.
Paul Bosch, yes.
That was
early on.
That was probably you just named the Texas boys there. You know, all of those guys had that Texas area, you know, and it was split up into different areas. Joe Blanchard was the San Antonio area, in that area there. Paul Bosch was in the Houston area. Fritz was the Dallas area, and we were up in the Amarillo area. And that was basically what the territories were at that time. We ran several towns outside of the area, too, like Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Pueblo, Colorado, and, Lubbock, Odessa, San Angelo. You know, I mean, our population was probably total all the way through the whole territory at that time. Couldn't have been more than 2 million people. I doubt if it'd be any more than that.
I mean, what a lot of people don't realize, you know, in those days, I mean, you pretty much went to most towns weekly, right?
Yes, and we had to pay our boys better than the large towns had to pay theirs. You know, I mean, the big time promoters, because we had to compete with those guys and try to keep those guys from going off and going into other territories. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And that area didn't have the same glamour as Miami, Florida.
That's it. Well, it does to me for some damn reason. I don't know why, but I'd say to 99.9 9/10%, they'd rather be in Miami, Florida.
Do you think, now that's interesting, do you think one of the reasons that Eddie Graham was able to get so much top talent and not pay them so great was because, hey, you're in Florida?
Absolutely. That's exactly why that he was so successful down there. Every boy wanted to be in Florida, including myself. That first territory I went to was Tampa, Florida. I went down there, but I'll tell you, Eddie took me under his wing and taught me a great deal while I was down there, you know, and I'll never forget, my pop called me up on the phone whenever Doc Sarpolis passed away, and he said, hey, Terry, he said, I need you back up here. I said, well, Dad, I don't know. I said, I'm making pretty good money, and he said, well, how much you making? I said, $235 a week. And that wasn't counting the miles that I was driving either, you know.
Yeah.
But I was with great people at the time. I was with Wahoo and Jose, and I'll tell you what, Eddie Graham was just a tremendous teacher. He really was. And you look at the guys that came through there that he helped so much, you know, and helped them understand the psychology in the business. It's just amazing.
Well, he did a great job, and I always got the impression that your father did as well, of, you know, being a part of the community, but being a legitimate sports part of the community. You know, they tied themselves to the local athletes, and, you know, with the commentator, you know, Gordon Soley was really one of the best at legitimizing the business, I always thought.
Well, you know, that's where, you know, Eddie, I'm not trying to say that my father was a guru of all, but Eddie did learn a lot from my father, you know, and my father used to tell Eddie. And Kel Farley used to tell my father, who taught my father a lot, was that, you know, you do good things for your town and you do good things for the people and they can't knock you. And that's basically what we did in the Amarillo area, is we got ourselves involved in all civic functions, you know. And if you look at Eddie in Florida, he did the same thing, you know, and it's a good thing to do, too, you know. It doesn't hurt to be good to people, too. Paul Bosch, the same way. Successful territory. He was a successful guy down there, too, you know.
Yeah.
And a good guy. And that brought him success as being a good man like he was.
Ed, anything else for Terry?
Yeah, Terry, I was wondering, I know you were in Florida a lot. Did you work Florida when David Von Erich was in Florida?
Yes, I did. I worked sometimes whenever he was down there, yes.
Really? Because to me, like, my fantasy heel tag team would have been David Von Erich and Terry Funk, and
yeah.
I was just wondering what your thoughts on David Von Erich were.
David was, he was the very best of the Von Erichs. I was very impressed with his talent, and ability, and I think that a lot of that came from my brother at that time. David was his partner a lot more than anybody else's, I think, and he kind of took David underneath his arm down there, and David did learn a lot down there whenever he was in Florida, and unfortunately something caught up with him and just ended the thing. Like, I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe, thinking back on, David was probably, 24, 25 years old when he passed away.
That's the unbelievable part of it, is 24 or 25 years old.
Yeah.
What's the unbelievable part of it is my dad was 54 years old.
Yeah.
And he passed away, and I thought, gosh, 54, he's lived a pretty good life. Well, now I'm 60, and I'm thinking, I want to do a lot more living. But some of those guys, and it's a really sad deal, all the guys that have disappeared on us at a young age in this business, and I get to talking about them, and it really is. It's just kind of it's a horrid tragedy. Yeah. A horrid tragedy.
How's your body hold up these days?
Little guy I used to work up in New York with was Rick McGraw, Loved to work with him. He used to have a 5-minute match with my hat, But there's a guy that didn't make it,
What are some guys, we were earlier and we were talking about guys maybe that have been forgotten historically, but guys that you run across that you thought were just great at, great talents that
Well, McDaniels was a great talent. Another piece of talent that's lost and forgotten is Jose Lothario. The guy was as good of an in-ring performer as you could find. He was really a great in-ring performer, Mike DiBiase was just the epitome of a wrestler and epitome of a man. Give you the right advice and take you under his wing, and just a great guy. Pat O'Connor was a great technician in the ring. Great technicians. Pat was one of the great ones. Johnny Valentine, just a phenomenal guy in the ring that just had a feel for it. And I promise you, if we had Johnny Valentine out here today, he would be over just as well as what he would have back then.
Yeah.
And he'd still be doing it his way.
You think so?
Oh, I sure do.
Really? I mean, I
sure do.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because whenever he would go ahead and have a match, the other boys would go out there and watch. And they always watch and see what gets over. And Johnny Valentine, by being physical and by being a good wrestling, hard wrestling in the ring, and they would see what he was doing, follow that, and that's what happened in Dallas. That popped the entire territory, as Johnny Valentine did. And you ask, well, who is still around? Ask him. Mm-hmm. Jose was still around. Ask him. Ask any of those guys from back then; they'll tell you. Johnny Valentine was
as an overlooked guy.
Yeah, because nobody really talks about Ricky Romero, but you were,
Ricky Romero was an excellent wrestler. He was. He's a very good Latin wrestler and performer. And here I said all of this stuff and everything else, and I haven't even mentioned my brother.
Yeah, but everyone remembers. Everyone remembers your brother, I think.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I want to remind him of him for a minute. Yeah, but it's just the guys in this business. It's been a great and wonderful trip, and it ain't over till it's over.
Mm. When starting up in 72, when you started up with All Japan, when Baba broke away from the old group, which was about to go under, and you and Dory were instrumental in that from the very beginning, helping book talent, being getting in with the NWA people and everything like that. I mean, what do you think were the keys of that company growing to from starting out to where it turned out to be on TV? And you guys, in the 80s, I mean, you had incredible notoriety in that country. I mean, stuff that people really, it'd be hard for someone here to fathom, because we had the 80s with Hulk Hogan, and I guess it's something similar to that, and even with Austin and Rock. But I mean, you guys in Japan were certainly at that level.
Yeah, it was a great thing. There was a whole lot of fighting going on behind the scenes. That was with Inoki, that, and it was a whole lot of trying to control the talent over there. And at the time, I think that we were doing a good job picking the cream of the crop of the talent in the United States and putting them over there to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the only thing. It's also taking guys like Tsuruta, you know, and all of the guys, you know, from Misawa to all of them. He trained them. You know what I mean? It was a different situation over there. It really was, and it was looked at as a life or death deal. You know, wrestling was life or death for those kids that were out there working, and wrestling was life or death to me at the time.
Yeah.
You know, seriously, as far as financial is concerned.
We're going to go to David in Secaucus, New Jersey. David, what's going on?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good.
Doing great.
It's a real honor to be on the line with Terry Funk, I got to tell you.
Well, thank you.
I don't want to take up too much time because I know a lot of people are probably trying to call in. I just wanted to answer the trivia question.
Okay.
Is it Stan Hansen and Terry Gordy?
You are so right. That is the answer to the people in the Terry Funk's famous first retirement match in 1983, and you got an ECW DVD. So hang on the line, and Ira will get your address.
An ECW DVD.
The Rise and Fall of ECW.
Gosh, that wasn't my first retirement match. I retired 2 years earlier than that.
Did you really?
In Hereford, Texas. No, I'm kidding you.
That was the one that I remember.
Well,
now you know
DVD.
You know what the thing about that is that, like, I remember watching that, and I mean there have been a lot of famous wrestlers who have retired, and so, but I don't think that anything will ever top that one. I mean, and even like Inoki, and that was a big deal when he retired. But there was something, I don't know if it was the time or you know, I mean, you built it up for a couple of years and everything, but I mean, if anyone ever saw a tape of that thing with all those people crying and you crying, and it was, I mean,
well, you know, it was really meant to be. And I know that you don't believe this, nobody believes this, but it was meant to be. And I really intended on retiring, and I've gotten my double-cross ranch paid off. I had my house paid off. I had about $55,000 in the bank, and I thought, by gosh, I'll be able to go ahead and make it for the rest. And I know that sounds stupid, but I'm serious. That's in 1983, I thought that.
Oh, my God.
Come up with something to make a buck, but of course I couldn't, you know.
Well, yeah, you know, one of the things, I'll ask you a question. You brought up Johnny Valentine, and what was the story
Died broke.
What?
Died broke.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What was the story with Johnny Valentine and you in St. Louis, where you know you were? I believe you were the it was the match where you won the Missouri title, and Sam Mushnick didn't like that match.
He didn't like it because Johnny and I went on TV and we did an angle. It was just a little bitty angle, but it was just where I caught him in the knee with a chair, you know, and at the end of the match. Well, you catch him in the, you know, it sounds pretty good, you know, it doesn't sound that hot, you know, to hit a guy in the knee with the chair. And Sam heard the finish, and he thought, well, that's okay, you know, and the other guys that were in there at the promoters meeting heard the finish, and, well, that's fine, yeah. Well, then we went out there and did it. Well, it was with Johnny's portrayal in the ring, and Johnny selling with that chair, and the match that we had within that ring that we stole, we became too hot immediately for Sam, and Sam knew it, and he did a very smart thing by pulling that match.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled it because it was too hot.
Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't be in control, and that's exactly where we would have liked to have. St. Louis was in our hands and not his. That was quite a deal back then, and you don't see that anymore. You know, I mean, believe me, you go into a territory and you'd want to get control of the territory, you know, and you still see that some today, you know, but
it's pretty hard now when everything's so controlled.
That's exactly right. It's very hard unless you marry into the family, and I don't know who would do that.
All right. We're going to do another trivia question, and that will be, who was Terry Funk's first professional opponent? So anyway, if you've got the answer to that one, you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. We still got a couple of ECW, Rise and Fall of ECW DVDs. Terry, I don't know if you ever have heard about this, but seriously, this DVD is awesome. WWE put it out. It's awesome because of the portrayal of Paul Lee. I mean, you know, you get the best and the worst of Paul. You get Paulie, to me, and you've been around some fascinating characters, more than I have, more than probably anyone actually. But Paulie to me is one of the most fascinating characters I've ever seen in this business. I mean, just that's all I can say is when people ask me about him, it's just like he's a trip.
He really is, and Paulie could definitely, Paulie's done some bad things.
Yeah.
Seriously so, and you can name several of them right quick. And
he can be his own worst enemy. And in fact, I think in many ways, at many points, he was his own worst enemy.
He was, and I've seen Paulie go ahead though, and I've been the guy, and you tell me why this is. I've been a guy that's been across the room, come through that back door, and I'm getting ready to chew his ass out, and the closer and closer I get to him. Well, you don't understand it by the time you get up there to him.
You hug him.
You're hugging him and smiling at him. And who's to say that we can work?
There's the funny thing about him is you would think that somebody would want to do something to him, and nobody ever does. And people go like, oh, well, is he a charming person? And I always say like, he's one of the most charming people there is.
What when he wants to be?
Yeah, and he's ruthless, and he's everything.
He's rude when he wants to be too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paulie is quite a character there, and I didn't see it, but I would love to see it, and it's practically sold out everywhere because I haven't,
Yeah, it is. It's been the hottest selling piece of wrestling merchandise in a long time.
Is it basically a portrayal of Paulie?
No, it's the life. It's basically the rise and fall of the company, but Paulie is all over it, and and in the end,
I mean, very much.
You're in it. You're at the very beginning. That he certainly puts you over as one of the people who helped make the company. It was kind of like you and Sabu are pretty much given credit for the making of the company as far as in the ring performers. That's the impression I got from watching the DVD.
Yeah, you better send me some money on it, or I'm going to have to go choke.
Well, it's Vince's DVD. I didn't even know Paulie's getting anything out of it.
I don't know either. How can it be Vince's? How can
Vince bought it.
How can it be? He didn't buy it. Who bought it from me?
No. That. Yeah, I know what you're saying now.
Yeah. Nobody bought it from me.
Yeah.
Nobody gave me a nickel for that.
Yeah.
I look on eBay and I wonder what the hell I'm doing, but I guess it's, when you got those little, you got those thieves that are stealing peanuts, well, you don't bother to catch them, but sometimes peanuts grow into trees, and that's what happened with Paulie's ECW tape.
Yeah.
Grew into a tree, didn't it?
Yeah. Let's go to Gino in San Francisco. Gino, what's going on?
Hello.
Hello there.
I want to say Merry Christmas to Terry Funk.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Gino.
Yeah, I had the answer to the trivia question, the one before, but actually I wanted to ask you to comment on your feud with Flair in the later days of NWA.
Gosh, that was a pretty good feud there. It went on for quite a while. I think that you have to create issues, and I think that we created an issue there that was between him and I. It certainly seemed to do well for the ratings did, and for the competition at the time and the position we were in. I don't think WCW would have made it if that wasn't an issue at that time. I think that Vince would probably stomp them in the ground a lot earlier than what he did.
Yeah, well, you were fighting an uphill battle because there were people in that company trying to stomp themselves into the ground.
Absolutely.
At that time period, and I mean, the funny thing to me, it was people. I don't even know how to explain it exactly, but it was people who were in charge that had no feel for wrestling, and they would look at, kind of like a demographic thing of, well, let's see, Vince is getting kids, so therefore we need younger wrestlers. But it's like when you and Flair had because of your ability to talk, which most of the guys in that company didn't have, and certainly no one had at your level. They weren't able to put the people in the seats, even if Lex Luger had a pretty body, and to someone just looking, well, like Lex Luger's, whatever it was, much younger than you guys were, and he's got this great body and he's got this great look. But Lex Luger never really got the knack of the ability to talk people and actually want to see his matches, and you guys were the masters of it at that time.
That was the beginning of the creation of the talent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's whenever, you know, I mean, it was right on the edge of the creation of the total piece of talent. You know, oh, well, you're going to do this, you're going to be this kind of character, and you're going to say this and that. You know, the dinglings and all that crap.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was the beginning. It was the beginning of that. You know, and Vince hadn't even, you know, I mean, he was into that thing up there, you know, having his gimmicks, and they were successful for a time. You know, that's like if you look at the circle, Dave, you look at that circle, and you see it as where we've evolved more and more from wrestling, raw wrestling itself, and added a few more things, and finally we've really gotten out there, you know. I mean, believe me, you know, you see these guys that, you know, anymore that can do a double backflip and disappear up their own ass off the top rope, you know. And see guys like that, but that's not what's drawing the crowds.
Yeah.
And it's not the in-ring movements. It has to be in the selling and the belief of the business itself, and that's what's missing. Is the selling is not there. The guys are not there. They do not portray selling even anymore. And I'm not saying that's bad or wrong. And if I was starting up right now, I'd try to do a double backflip and disappear up my asshole so I could get booked next week. You know what I mean? But I mean, you've got to see it go ahead and turn around. And I keep on hoping that someday somebody, eventually with the talents of a Johnny Valentine, or somebody that's as hard-headed as him and in the right position could go take the business the right way again, you know. And I really haven't watched ROH much, if they have any young guys on it or not. I read somewhere where they're doing 90-minute matches up there, you know.
60. They did a great 60-minute match on October 16th. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to go to Norm in South River, New Jersey. Norman, what's going on?
How you doing, Dave?
Doing really good.
Okay, got an answer for the trivia.
Okay.
Is that Dennis Stamp?
You're wrong.
I'm wrong, okay.
You're wrong, it's not Dennis Stamp.
Okay.
But Dennis Stamp is one of Terry Funk's old friends. Tell us the Dennis Stamp story.
Dennis Stamp stories?
Yeah.
Well, Dennis Stamp, I had one of my first matches. It's after I had an atrocity with Sputnik Monroe, but I went up there to Vern Gagne's territory. And I flew up there to see about becoming a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. You ever remember that?
Yeah, a CFL team.
Yeah, and it was coached by the coach of the Minnesota Vikings that did so well up there. I can't remember what his name was.
Was it Norm Van Brocklin?
No, the one right after.
Bud Grant?
Yeah, Bud Grant.
Yeah, okay.
And so I flew up there to see them about playing ball, and I came back through there, and I wrestled. We got into a ring with Harley Race and Larry Henning, because I stopped over there, and Vern went ahead, and, you know, I was in Minneapolis, and he knew Bud Grant and introduced me to him, and so then Dennis Stamp and I went into the ring and wrestled on TV, and we wrestled Harley Race and Larry Henning. And I thought, my God, you know, I went out the ring, and I hadn't been wrestling hardly at all, other than Sputsy, and went into the ring, and we wrestled Larry Henning and Harley Race, and my God, they made me look like $1 million. You know, they were my dad's buddies, and I didn't realize that. I thought I was a tremendous worker at that time. Geez, aren't I something, you know? But I worked 2 days up there for him, and I can't remember the one guy's name, but he has a great shoot. Scott, do you remember what the guy's name? Butch Levy.
Butch Levy, yeah.
Yeah, Butch Levy. Yeah. So the next night I had Butch Levy in Denver, working my way back down to Amarillo, and wrestled Butch Levy in Denver, and I thought I could work with a broomstick at the time, you know, but after I got in the ring with Butch Levy, I knew that I didn't know a damn thing. It was really a stinkeroo, let me tell you. But that was some early times.
Being in there with Harley and Hennig.
That was early times with Dennis Stamp.
Terry, if you had a name, I don't know if you could even limit it to one match because there's so many, but who would you say memorable matches of yours that like stick out in your mind when you look back over the 40 years and just go like, you know, these were the highlights of my career?
That's you know, as I can just start off and start going, you know, as going against just for example as Florida being in the ring with Larry Malenko, you know, Atlanta being in the ring with the Assassins, Kansas City, going up there and being around guys like Bob Geigel, who's a great athlete, Pat O'Connor, going up there and seeing Vern, who is a great amateur wrestler, going to the, just going to Houston and having the opportunity to watch Johnny Valentine in the ring, going to St. Louis, watching Sam Leshnick and how he would manipulate there, and seeing the great ones, and working with all of these guys too, from Lou Thez to Dick the Bruiser and to Harley Race to right on down the road, and going to Japan and working over there with Bruno Sammartino, going that far back, and going through there and wrestling everybody from Inoki to Sakaguchi to Baba to right on down the line to Tsuruta, to all of the great ones in Japan, and being able to go in the ring and perform with them, and the hundreds that I forgot, that I haven't forgotten, but it's just so hard to recall them all at once. And it's been a great and wonderful thing for me. It's been a great kick. It's been wonderful,
How did you first get into contact with Stallone?
That took place whenever he sent out a letter to every territory, believe it or not, to all the National Wrestling Alliance members. Check with Gene LaBelle and see if this is true or not. And he sent out a letter to all of the National Wrestling Alliance members, and I don't know how he got their names, but that wasn't hard to do. And with all the territories, said he's looking for a wrestler to star in his movie. Well, nobody sent a tape except me.
That sounds insane to me, though. But whatever.
Well, it is insane. It is absolutely insane, but that's a true story. And nobody else sent one. And I sent one where I said, "Fly you over, bearing obnoxious egg-sucking dog, I'm in Amarillo, Texas, if you ever come driving through." Just a bunch of crap, and he liked it. So he flew me out there to see me then, And then I went out there and read for the part, and he liked me more and more, and so then he hired me, and then hired, so it was a great deal. It was a great gig. It really was. But then I thought I was going to be a great movie star, though, too.
What was the hardest thing about movie acting and TV acting for you coming off of professional wrestling?
Being little. Just being yourself, minimizing being yourself is the best way to put it, When you do your lines, we're very big, we're very big. Wrestlers are too big, if they put you on a screen size of a movie screen, if you see your eyes blinking and everything else on a close-up shot. We do everything for the distance, Am I making any sense?
Yeah, because you're not,
And the movies are, you have to be slider, But I think I really do, I think the greatest thing in the business is being yourself, whether it's a self that you come up with or whatever it is. From Dusty Rhodes is Dusty Rhodes. He is the American dream, and he actually believes himself to be the American dream. Harley Race, he is 8 times world champion. Don't tell him he isn't.
Yeah.
And Adrian Adonis, he was nuts. And just exactly who you saw, as nutty as he was. But, and on and on and on. But those guys, they were just extensions of their true personalities.
Now, what do you think happened with Mick Foley and Ric Flair? I mean, as far as I know you're kind of familiar with what both said, and Mick basically said that Rick wasn't the best booker, and then Rick went off on Mick Foley not being a great wrestler, which, in my mind, there's different, there's different ways to skin a cat, if you know what I mean. Like Ric Flair was a great wrestler at being Ric Flair, Mick Foley was a great wrestler at being Mick Foley. It's totally different style of what they did, but they both were super successful at it,
Yeah. Did it reach punching?
Rick punched him, yeah.
Where did he punch him?
I don't know, but he didn't punch him hard enough because...
Well, that had to be those guys, they ought to be ashamed of themselves in their fight. If it wasn't any better than that. Both of them should be ashamed, or they better proclaim it at work awful fast.
The pearls I heard were great, though.
Oh, well... That ought to tell you something. The promos were great. They're gonna, if you're gonna do the real deal, do the real deal. If you're gonna try to convince the boys, you got to be pretty damn good. I'll leave it at that.
Let's go to Jay in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Jay, what's going on?
Hey, gentlemen, how you doing tonight?
Doing really good.
Very good. Yeah, Terry, looking forward to meeting you at Russell Reunion. I understand you're going to be there.
Yes, sir, I sure am. I'm going to be glad to be up there. A lot of other guys going to be at the reunion.
Everyone's going to be there.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
You think it's going to do well, Dave?
I don't have any idea. There's too many guys.
There's going to be a lot of good boys. I want to be there. Dusty. Well, that's not a good boy. He's just a fat ass. And there's the Briscoe brothers. Well, yeah, Jerry, he's got a big old potato nose.
Dory's going to be there.
Who? Dory's going to be there?
Dory's going to be there. Good old boy.
Oh, Foley is? Yeah, he's got a satchel ass, though. Piper's going to be there. Nah, hey, there's going to be a lot of guys there, and Bruno's going to be there.
Bruno's going to be there. Billy Graham's going to be there, yeah.
Hey,
and Billy Graham's going to be there.
Yeah.
Is his
son going to be there?
Who?
His son.
Billy Graham's son?
Yeah.
I don't know who Billy Graham's son is.
Well, I really like him. He does a great job of preaching.
But Jay.
Can I tell the trivia?
Yes.
I thought that was quite funny, Dave.
Yeah. Jay, I heard what you said, and you're right. It was Sputnik Monroe.
Okay, December 9th, 1965.
Oh, my God. He got the date.
And no, I wasn't there.
Oh, Terry, he got the frickin' date.
And you know what? Terry even won that match.
Who is this?
It's just Jay in Weymouth, Massachusetts. That's who he says he is.
I'll be darned. And you were there?
No, I wasn't. I hadn't even started watching wrestling yet.
Yeah, all right. You got the tape of that match?
No, I don't. You know, I wish I did.
Oh, that would be a collector's item now.
That would be a collector's item.
Oh, my God. I watched some silent movies of your TV matches in St. Louis that very few people probably have, and I wish everybody saw them. This I would say would be early 70s, and because the people who saw you in the 80s and the 90s wrestle a certain style, you were a totally different wrestler in the 70s. I mean, it was just like, you know,
absolutely.
Yeah, just, I mean, you know, incredible worker. I mean, always an incredible worker, but it's not like Ric Flair is pretty much the same wrestler, you know, all through his career. Terry Funk is a different great wrestler at different periods of his career.
Can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
Terry, can you explain Chainsaw Charlie?
I sure can't. Chainsaw Charlie would take a lot of explanation. But that wasn't Vince's fault. That was mine. I said Chainsaw Charlie. I face up to it. I fess up to it. It was me. I came up with that ignorant gimmick.
Did you really think
that goes to show you that don't believe even a genius if you think it is.
Terry, seriously, did you think that people wouldn't know it was you? Or what was the idea behind it?
Well, I just thought it was a hell of a gimmick. I always liked Chainsaw Charlie. I just thought, you know, Chainsaw Charlie, that's a good name.
Whose pantyhose did you wear?
He just, I can't remember. I'm sure they had to be Moolahs or bigger.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot.
Okay, Jay. Scott, is there a name for the book?
We've got some titles that are being juggled, but they haven't settled on anything that's final as of this time.
Okay, the book will be out in March, and I highly recommend it. And that's only with 75%. I still have to read the other 25% or whatever it is. And let's go to Alan in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Alan, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. How's it going?
Going good.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Funk. Mr. Funk, I wanted to ask you, because there's been speculation for years about you and Dusty's relationship behind the scenes.
What do you want to know about it?
Well, how close is it? I mean, you guys close, or you know, what is it?
I'll tell you the truth. I just love the.
Okay.
I just love the fat, sloppy bastard.
You and him had great chemistry though in Florida in the late 70s. I mean, I know you had to be one of his favorite opponents because they kept bringing you back forever. You know what I mean? I mean, you guys did that match in Miami was just a couple of years ago when wrestling was supposed to be dead on the independent level and did 3,000 people at that one show.
Yeah, we also set the record. I forget what the one Coliseum was, but I don't know who played there. Lawrence Welk held it for 20 years or something. We broke everything.
Lawrence Welk, wow. Alan, anything else really quick, because we're going to get out of here.
I wanted to ask him something real quick about Hogan. It was a story about Hogan, and it was in a Slam Wrestling website. I think you said something about this problem years ago. Is there anything to that? Or what?
Oh, the thing in Japan?
Yeah.
It's a Japan story. I don't know if we have time for it, but try to say it. We got about a minute, Terry.
Yeah.
The story when you went to his hotel room in Japan?
It was a pretty simple deal. As I just went up there looking for him, and he wasn't there, and it could have been a bad deal for me too. Bad deal for me if he was. So I think we both lucked out.
All right.
Okay. Terry, thanks so much, and we'll have Terry back on in March when the book comes out. We'll have Scott with him, and I want to thank everyone for listening in. This was a great show. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.